My Family Thinks I'm Crazy, a podcast where I, your host, try to give you some tips on how you can explain all this weird, wild, crazy conspiracy stuff to the people you love most. Because that's what I've been trying to do for the past 10 years with no success.
I've been telling everybody that our government is shady, but every time I do, my family thinks I'm crazy. The hollow earth, UFOs, aliens invading, fluoride in the water, they swear skies daily. When I talk about these things, they think I'm crazy. There's no escaping anymore the evil that we're facing. Illuminati mind control, they're sacrificing babies. The end of days, but anyways, my family thinks I'm crazy.
What, they don't want to listen to you?
No, they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear it. They're just like, oh, here we go, Mark. Off again with your...
Mark being Mark again.
Yeah. So, you know, that's the thing about podcasts is when you're on the air, and it's like therapy, you know? If I can't talk to my family about this stuff, I'll talk to you, Matt, and all our listeners.
You'll just tell your whole podcast.
Yeah. So who are we talking about today, Matt?
They think that I'm crazy. They really think that I'm crazy. They really think that I'm crazy. My family thinks that I'm crazy.
Who's it for?
Definitely not for my ass. As not enough people are supporting us on the Patreon and the
damn it.
Rockfin.
Fuck.
But if you're listening to this live on Rockfin, we love you and we appreciate you. We are rolling.
Are we live? Oh,
Dude,
we are rolling.
We've been
shit.
recording this whole time, homie Romy. We do cold roll-ins.
God damn it. He's always getting me with the cold roll-ins. What up, everybody? It is Homie Romy here, co-host of Rising from the Ashes. I got my first presentation, and Mark is gracious enough to let me on to MFTIC to kind of help me break it down, because Mark has a shizeltine full of information, and I love his brain. So I'm hoping that that, you know, after this kind of series of slides that we put together, we can kind of come to some deeper understandings of this mythical mystery, this magnificent mystery that we're all living in here.
Speaking of mystery, you are in a very mysterious place right now. You have a campfire behind you, it seems, or in front of you as well. The perspective is all off, but you know what, Roman? I'm happy you're here. I'm happy we just opened up the show. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. One moment, we got to go live on Telegram, include all the homies on the Telegram. And I'm trying to slow down the pace of the show a little bit, because I used to be like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. Here we are. And it's too fast, too loud, too rough, and I almost just turned Roman off right there. So,
Oof. Hey, I'm not a Romanov, but you know, I'm not associated with the Holy Roman Empire. I'm not a Romanov. You know, this name I think was given to me because there's no reason why I should be into any of this weird ass shit. Through my history of where I come from and who my family, like, honestly, is kind of like a bunch of very poor drug addicts from a very small town in Washington, you know. So, and then whenever I ask my mom why she named me Roman, it's like always kind of like a you know, oh, I don't actually know why. There was a last minute, you know, reasoning as to why we named you that. So I think now that I'm getting into this shit, and like life is turning ever since starting this show and getting into the podcast realm. I think it's almost fate in the sense that, because I'm addicted to it. I'm addicted to knowledge now and esoteric findings. It fuels me. It literally fuels me. And there was a missing little chunk in my heart. And this has kind of been busted open of all the goodness, and I'm just I'm grateful to be a part of it, man.
well, yeah, I'm glad you shared that with me, because I have similar beginnings in a way. You know, definitely don't come from like a silver spoon in my mouth or anything like that. And I think our um, our upbringing only lends to this type of thinking that comes in so handy when we're navigating these waters, because you really learn to question everything from that young age when things don't, especially when you see like stuff going on in your family. We don't have to make this a tangent, but I just want to point out, when you notice these things in your family at a young age, and then you see other people's families, you get this idea like, oh, like what's wrong with me? What's wrong with this, this family that I was born into? All these other people have it so much better. When the truth is everybody's got, dirty laundry. So that's kind of, for me, come full circle and parallel now that I'm looking into all this stuff. Cause it's like, yeah, nobody's immune to the implications of some of these conspiracy theories. If 9/11 was an inside job, all of us got duped, it wasn't 10% of us who got tricked, it was everybody got tricked, and some people still haven't woken up from that. But anyways, here we are. We're live. Back again, motherfuckers. We do so many intros on this show because I just want to I want to delay this as much as possible because I haven't even finished rolling this blunt, homie Romy. So I hope you have time tonight. I hope you're not on a set schedule or something.
I'm on the set schedule of Sway.
Okay, I almost got scared there for a second. So you mentioned, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. I'm your host, Mark Palmer.
Thank you guys so much.
And we're just so happy to be here. Me and the homie Romy just fucking around right now. We're not taking things seriously. This is a My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast. If you want to listen to some smarty pants, go listen to My Family Thinks I'm a Genius podcast.
Yeah, which doesn't exist because everybody's an idiot. And that's okay.
That's okay. And I think after we get into what we're going to get into today, we might all feel a little dumber, but that's okay. Because you need to realize that the fool is the beginning of the journey. You have to recognize that you've been fooled in order to even walk this path.
Yes, yeah, no, that's the thing. That's something else. I'm gonna go into this before we start the presentation about that. Allowing the, I don't know, the heaviness of being fooled to wash off you and to let go and to say, you know what? Yeah, like I was duped. It's okay that I was duped. It's fine. And I feel like a lot of people hold on to this almost ignorance of no, there's no absolute way that I could be duped. But coming, from a pretty noble background of, just having to really just work to get anywhere in this society. I've always been duped, and so I've always just had to come out from being duped. So I just always assumed we're being duped, and it's slightly cynical, but I'm on the optimistic end of it.
Right. Well, with this architecture stuff, I want to get it out of the way. Yes, we're going to use the word Tartaria possibly in the title of this show, but this is not going to be one of those Tartaria podcasts where we just speculate wildly and take all of these loose things and put them all under one umbrella. Because what Roman and I have set out to do is to define what I think Roman coined this term, at least between the two of us. I don't know if someone else had come up with it in history, but resonant architecture, aka architecture or buildings designed with the intention or with the purpose of conducting, channeling, or storing energy within the building itself, or maybe even taking the energy and transferring it somewhere else. So we have a couple of different scenarios here, but the key point is that energy plus a building equals resonant architecture somehow, and that's what we want to figure out.
Yes. And that's why we are very much so trying to not label it Tartaria, because a lot of people say look at these Tartarian buildings, and they're just it's all over the world, it's all over the globe. And granted, they are all built very similarly with the specific amount of spires and the doorways and the alchemical understanding of the similarities between everything and how it works. And so, but we're just trying to break the mold here a little bit and trying to think outside the box, because I think we need to shake things up a little bit. I noticed there's a lot Tartarian books and literature coming out. So we might be needing to watch for psyops.
That's interesting you say that. Coming. Have you where have you seen these Tartaria coming soon books?
Oh, there's just like you can go to Amazon and there's a character there that has written 5 deep, detailed books on Tartaria. There's more and more and more podcasts coming out about it. There's documentaries on BitChute and YouTube and so much.
Right.
And a lot of it is very real, and researchers and then, but some of them are like kind of like, wow, where did this guy pop up from? Just wrote 5 books in 2020 about all of this. Interesting.
Well, I definitely think that Tartaria and the theories aren't new, but it's certainly been said on the show before that it seems to have come out of nowhere. And I think I even figured out, I don't know if I figured it out, but I remember talking, maybe it was on our big, round table that you guys hosted, Michelle Gibson and the rest of us on. But I mentioned like when Tartaria got into like the conspiratorial zeitgeist, and I just fucking am pinching myself for forgetting. But there was a period in time when Tartaria just became like really popular online, and it had some sort of correlation to something going on in like the news cycle or maybe even like a world event. But
it was 2017 or 18 that Putin released a bunch of Russian historical documents out of their archives, and it was flooded with Tartarian maps and the word Tartary all over. And so is that kind of the time frame that you're thinking of?
Now that you said that, the article I read said that the whole Tartaria stuff came about after the CIA released a document about rewriting history in communist Russia. So wow, that's very interesting. And I don't necessarily take sides. I'm not like against Putin and for the CIA. I'm certainly not for the CIA or Putin,
fully for Putin. If I were to pick a side, I know what side I would pick.
Yeah.
I think,
because of the Tartaria thing though, or is there more than that?
Roman, I might be a Romanov. I might be a part of the Rus horde, like in past life. I'm not sure, but I definitely resonate with the Rus at points,
Okay. Well, yeah, naturally with the conversations we're getting into here and all of the many awesome Tartaria talks you've had on your podcast, Rising from the Ashes. Shout out to Dan Downunaki, past guest on this show. Dan, I see you there in the Telegram live chat listening, brother. He wants to speak, but he's had his turn. He's had his turn. Oh, he just put his hand down. Shout out to you, Dan. This is Roman's turn, but we'll have you back on very soon. But either way, we talked a lot about it. And like you kind of mentioned just before, like, maybe there is a synchronistic connection to your name. Again, your family doesn't really have the best explanation, or at least I don't remember why they named you Roman, which I don't have such an interesting story. I'm named after my dad, so there's really no explanation there other than that. So, but anyways, we've been beating around the bush a lot here. Let's get to this fucking presentation that you've been cooking up over there, dog. What the hell? You got a whole light show going on.
Ready?
You got people coming in and out. Let's go. Hit the screen share.
Doop, doop, doop. All right, everybody, let's go. Oy, oy, oy. And we're gonna get the screen share on Zoom. The screen share on Zoom. I like to sing. Everybody.
You are a rapper. I think people should be aware that when you're on the Christian and Conspiracy podcast, you spit some bars, and Josh Monday had some bars too.
Yup. Yeah, that was pretty fun. Hoping we can do that more
Damn,
often.
did you make this on Canva?
Yeah. So I'm gonna let everybody know
I
this is
like
the
it.
free version of Canva. This is and some of the photos in here are not. I threw this together because this is my first presentation. I was at an event all weekend called the Emerald Cup in Santa Rosa, and
Very cool.
yeah, it was great. Had a great time. I really needed that unwinding of like going to a concert and just seeing Dirt Wire is an amazing band. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Dirt Wire. Super vibey music. They make a lot of their own instruments and they play world instruments. It's so good. But here we are. This presentation, my friends, is called Antiquated Transhumanism and Resonance Architecture. To understand more about our ancient ancestors and their understanding of the electromagnetic grid of the planet and how they connected their consciousness to it, similar to how transhumanism is described as connecting our consciousness to computers as we know it now,
Right.
which can be formed. I have three forms of consciousness in my lens that I view things with. I look at the cosmic consciousness, which is cosmic in the sense of like the plasma that connects the galaxy. You have the atmosphere and human collective consciousness, which is where we connect as a human species into a collective consciousness psychically and such. And then you have the consciousness of the computer, which is I'm working on another theory of like how and why the mud flood may have happened, through and why it needed to happen. If we had such a grasp on the electromagnetic grid, I think, and this is just me speculating from a theory that I'm just slowly putting together, but a new break in science and computing to kind of go deeper into quantum, and that might have been like a let go of some some of the old ways to transition into deeper, more fractalized computing, and jumping around wormholes and such. Anyways, here we go. Antiquated transhumanism and resonance architecture. Here we go. What is transhumanism? Oh, okay. Yep, like I said, first presentation. Transhumanism is a movement that aims to use technology to enhance human intellect, physiology, and physiological abilities. This can be anything from brain implants to bionic eyes and stem cell tech to exoskeleton bodysuits. Okay, it brought me back to the first slide. This reminds me of being in school. And it's skipping around like a little schoolboy.
Bear with
Transhumanism can be
us.
viewed as an extension. Transhumanism can be viewed as an extension of humanism, from which it is partially derived. Humanists believe that humans matter, that individuals matter. And we might not be perfect, but we can make things better by promoting rational thinking, freedom, tolerance, democracy, and concern for our fellow human beings. Transhumanists agree with this, but also emphasize that we have the potential to become. Just as we use rational means to improve the human condition and the external world, we can also use such means to improve ourselves, the human organism. In doing so, we are not limited to traditional humanistic methods, such as education and cultural development, but we can also use technological means that will eventually enable us to move beyond what some would think as human.
Yikes.
The world is evolving positively due to transhumanism tech and science. I believe that it will, and this is from extremetech.com. I'm not reading a SERP of mine, just to fill you guys in on that. I'm actually not necessarily for transhumanism. The world is evolving positively due to transhumanism tech and science. I believe it will continue to evolve into a place where living standards and the happiness of all people sharply rise as a result. In the future, I think there will be more interconnectedness than ever before. While I'm a big fan of the individual and their rights, such interconnectedness due to a digital culture will bring us all closer, possibly in ways we couldn't imagine. Eventually, advancements in technology such as widespread chip implants, virtual currencies, and brainwave reading devices, which already exist, will force issues of equality and universality across all communities and borders. Globalization will not just be a slow jog, will become a full sprint. So, like I said, that is from the extremetech.com. So, this is from the mainstream point of view of transhumanism, which is a large following of very rich people. We have a lot of people that are huge, very, very, very successful people who are backing up transhumanist movement, funding it with absolute just billions of dollars, my friends, right? Elon Musk is a huge one. He's going to launch Neuralink next year with people signed up to put graphene oxide mesh onto their brain to connect it to a cloud. Wow. Jeffrey Epstein was said to have been incredibly interested in the transhumanist movement. That's, documented. Klaus Schwab, the head of the World Economic Forum, um, just from looking at all of the movements that the WEF is into and the push for the fourth industrial revolution, I strongly believe that Klaus Schwab is absolutely for the transhumanist movement. Nick Bostrom, who is just a little rat looking guy, there's nothing wrong with rats. I actually, I think they're kind of cute. But he's just one of those guys. Nick Bostrom, look him up. I couldn't find anything bad on him. You won't find anything bad on any of these people because it's transhumanism. So who runs the internet, right? And here I got some pictures you guys to look at. You got looks like a detonator, right? Some sort of bomb with syringes in the back of the here. And I learned that this is a chakra point called the Mouth of God Chakra. So when you're standing in the shower and the water's hitting the back of your head, the hot water, and you feel like you're just meditating, it's a beautiful thing. So that the artist put these here, which is really interesting. This is a very famous transhumanist, using three hands to write evolution because you can't write evolution fast enough because that's not how evolution works. One of my main issues with this movement isn't the cohesion and relationship of human to technology. It is simply the merging of human and technology. What's your opinion on that?
My opinion on technology being used to what now? I'm sorry. I was lighting my blunt. I was not paying attention. You caught me.
One of my main issues with this movement, the transhumanist movement, isn't the cohesion and the relationship of human to technology, but my issue is the merging,
Right.
physical merging of human and technology. And
My thoughts on that might be counterintuitive, but maybe we'll save my thoughts for the end because I do have my notepad in front of me and I'm taking notes because I do want to respond in full to all of this. So yeah, take her away. If you have anything you think I can add, feel free to include me, but I am taking notes. So if you want to save your questions for the end, I think that would be the best format.
All right, perfect. So everybody, that's just a quick breakdown of what transhumanism is and in the mainstream narrative now, right? And so we're going to jump to our ancient cultures. And when I say ancient, I mean, relative antiquity, I guess 1700s and before, I'm not sure what the term ancient has to be involved with on an actual timeline, but anyways, so we're going to go around and we're going to take the lens, if you can, everybody, if you need me to explain this in a deeper sense, I will, but I want you guys to try to visualize through a lens of the electric universe. If everything moves on an energetic sense, right? The flow between back and forth, the alchemical flow of energy and electricity just constantly moving around within our atmosphere. And our understanding of that as an ancient species, and that being the reason why we were so in depth with everything that we did, from art to philosophy to literature to education, and so much more, connection, spirituality, and so much more, connection and cohesion of nature, understanding energy points, and understanding the soft um the soft gushy goodness, if you will, of our love, our deep penetrating love for the earth, and the understanding of the planet, and possibly the galaxy as well. So the main reason why, like, I got into this is because, thinking about suppression of history through the Tartaria lens that's been going around. I was we're talking a lot about the empire and buildings, but there's a connection between the spires and the crowns and the swords and the staffs and the globe and cross and the scepters. There's a connection between conductive materials being used in clothing, in our cups and stained glasses, nanocolloidal um, nanocolloidal conductive materials used microscopically, nanotech, to make stained glass, to have a specific LSPR, plasma resonance, radiating through the glass, so in depth, so absolutely unbelievably in depth, absolutely everything, down to a molecular T. Nanotech is not new in the sense of making things biologically available by breaking it down to a particle and putting it in a solution, and using these solutions for medicine or using it for art. This is very, very, what we would consider high tech in today's science terms, nanotech, right? And things like that. This is not new by any means. And so there's a connection between transhumanism now and what we would consider transhumanism in the past. But I think one of the main things that we have that's different than what, and why I think the large part of the paradigm shift that happened, is computing, and there being a breakthrough in science, because humans, obviously, we've been so deeply embedded into science and astrology and cosmologies for so long, and to the point where there was cataclysms, catastrophic events, and wars to basically suppress the information, keep it in very specific hands, and keep that the same agenda going. So we're going to look at different things here. A lot of different random pictures. These are crowns from all over the world. There was crowns on each reach of land, on islands, to the eastern, to the west, to the north, and to the south. And they all had similarities in their architecture, but also in the things that the royals and people in the elites at the time were wearing. And, I think a large part of the history we're not being told about is the conscious connection that they understood to the electromagnetic grid. A lot of these stories were being told is that these were used to symbolize royalty, and they were treasures, and they had nothing more than aesthetic pleasures about them. They didn't hold any purpose. I don't think that to be true. And I'll tell you why. Because these materials are so heavily conductive. And if you've ever worked with crystals, if you've ever done meditation, if you've ever had any sort of like heavy energetic experience, when you're truly connected to the earth, when you're grounded and your feet are touching the ground and you feel surges through your body. I know a lot of people haven't experienced this because we're working so hard to just get on through our daily lives, and I think that's a part of the indoctrination that we're involved in. But I'm lucky to have lived a life that I have a lot of freedom, and I do a lot of just being very, very close to nature in the woods. And I've had a lot of experiences standing on big boulders and rocks barefoot and having surges of energy coming through my body and connecting upwards. And I think there's a connection between spires that are built on these cathedrals, which are cathodes, which is alchemical, the grounder. the grounding cord, the grounding negative charge that you get from the positive charge, which is floating electrons and moving electronic particles, need a negative charge. And that's what cathodes are, right? Cathodes are grounded, and they basically catch electrons, positive charge, and they put it through the ground, that gets dispersed, and then it kind of repeats like that. That's the basic kind of understanding of electricity and energy. You have to have the polarity. In the Hermetic sense, it's masculine to feminine. There's always the two, that equals the three. You have the positive and negative charge that equals energy. Okay, sorry, that was a rant, and it's not very concise or scripted, but just trying to give you guys a lens of where I'm coming at with this. So from crowns of coronet, this is symbolic conductive materials, crowns being found in the Bible. In Ezekiel, he put a jewel upon thy nose, and earrings in thine ears, and a crown of adornment upon thine head. The subject here of is the setting up of the church. A jewel upon the nose denotes the perception of good. Earrings in the ears denote the perception of truth and obedience. A crown upon the head denotes the wisdom thence derived. In Job, he hath stripped me of my glory and taken thy crown off my head. Job 19:9, where glory denotes the intelligence of which is divine truth, the crown of the head denotes wisdom thence derived. In the Apocalypse, upon the thrones I saw 24 elders, clothed in white garments, who had upon their heads golden crowns. They fell down before him that was sitting upon the throne, and worshipped him that liveth forever and ever, and cast their crowns before the throne. The throne or the 24 elders signify all of those who are good from truths, and the abstract sense of all goods from truths. The thrones denote truths from the divine. The golden crowns on their heads, representatives of wisdom from the divine. And because of this is from the divine, therefore they cast them before he was sitting on the throne. And the reason I put that in there is just to kind of like give just a little bit of sense of crowns and jewels. It doesn't really necessarily fit in there that well. Royal crowns lost in history, but found in documents. We have a list of historical important crowns to Cambodia that got lost in 1970. And in France, over 20 royal crowns were said to be destroyed in 1793. Here we have this, see? Symbolizing, it looks a lot like spires. It almost looks like a building. He's got gold everywhere. He's even got a staff to connect his grounding energy, his cathode.
It's got like a pagoda hat.
Yeah. I mean, these things are ridiculous. I mean, these symbolize architecture, in my opinion, and another theory and thing I'm working on is that we are cathodes. We are cathodes, and we collect the energy as we ground to the earth. So we are the architecture as well. We're symbolized in architecture and the cross. The cross is on a lot of these, which in my opinion is a symbolization of the human, and it has to do with the energetic point. You have, your head right at the top, the feet, the bottom, and the arms and the limbs on out. But your centrifugal energy point is your heart chakra, your heart, which is your center, which is the center of the cross, which is, in an alchemical sense, is the energy. After you take all of these points together, create it and connect it to a grounding cord, and you have the energy in the middle point of that, which is why you see crosses on the tops of these crowns, to shoot the energy or connect it and redistribute it, or on top of the staffs and such. This is really cool. This is the Albanian crown, the Albanian helmet. Skanderberg's helmet was made of white metal adorned with a strip dressed in gold, and on its top lies the head of a horned goat made of bronze, also dressed in gold, and the bottom part bears a copper strip adorned with a monogram separated by different rosettes. The detail to go into that, the weight of that has to be at least 5 pounds, the minimum. Okay, here we go. Another crown. There's so many, guys. Like I couldn't really pull this up. Here's one from Sweden. Kind of looks janky. Not surprised. Ukrainian crown. Wow, look at that pixelated goodness there. Oh, this is Ukrainian flower headdresses, which I thought were just beautiful. I thought I'd throw those in there. These women are beautiful. This is a beautiful culture. Portuguese crown, right? You have an owl up there, steeple. This all represents energy coming down to your crown chakra, which is the thinnest veil. Your root chakra is one of the hardest kind of veils of energy, but your crown chakra, why it's so easily penetratable for EMF waves to get in there, right? For all you real tinfoil hat wearers out there. They want to call you a tinfoil hat wearer, when in reality, the royals were wearing metal hats. So good on you, right? Let's see.
I love that.
Here we go, another one. Here's another crown that's absolutely beautiful. In Nepal, certain crowns possess an esoteric power. When held in the hands or worn on the head of the initiated tantric priest. Such objects are potent symbols of esoteric Buddhism of Nepal and enshrine the status of tantric specialist in Nepalese Buddhist society. The act of wearing such a crown plays an essential role in the construction and visual manifestation of power. There you go. And here we go. Nepalese crowns. You have a Nepalesian scepter here. And this guy, does he look like an elitist or an elite at the time? Or does he look like he is a healer? Right? He's got his conductive material here. He's got the bell, which is found in Indian. I don't know what we call these tools. Here you got a beautiful crown from Mexico and scepter, all gold. From India, right? Look at that. Right here, third eye, you got the jewel right here. The blue represents the higher chakra points. Look at that. That's fucking amazing. And they got, looks like a snake or something here, which is kind of looks like the Egyptian. Oh, here we go. The Deshret. This is one of the three, we call them crowns, but they just look more like headdresses. They didn't say they were made of conductive material, but they do symbolize a snake coming out, Kundalini snake energy coming out of what we call the third gland or the pineal gland, the third eye. And the Deshret was the red crown of the lower regions of Egypt. Then you have the Hedjet, which is the white crown of the upper regions of Egypt, right? You have conductive material on the base, and there's symbolism in here. I don't know what that is. I don't study Egyptian, deep Egyptian mythology. But if anyone has any information why there's this here, I'm sure there's a reason, and it could be longer heads. People speculate all of that stuff, and the what have you, Anunnaki, so on and so forth. And then you had the merging of the Hedjet and the Deshret to make the Shent, which is that both of these combine to symbolize the unity of Egypt, which sounds like indoctrination potentially.
Well, to me, real quick, I'll jump in. It sounds like Hermeticism and the principle of duality, both genders. I mean, one of those looked more like a phallus shape, and the other one looked like it was receiving the phallus when the two hats came together. So you can also read that as like maybe two genders or something. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely phallic. This is feminine looking. It has a tendril even, and the tendril.
And as a plant expert, that is a aspect in plant sexuality, right? Like, can you elaborate on that? Because I mean, outwardly, people might not associate that with a feminine symbol if they weren't so familiar with botany.
Well, depending on the specific plant, you have the pine tree, which the cone is the female seed that gets pollinated from the catkin pollen, and so the catkin looks phallic, and the seed has it's got its feminine shape and beauty. Tendrils, I don't know if necessarily tendrils are a feminine quality on plant, but I do know that pistils um, and the cups, like, yeah, there being specific pistils in the male plants and the cups, like the
Mm.
definition of the flower itself. And the plant world is so amazing. I am not a botanist by any means. It is incredibly interesting
Well,
to me.
I'm
And
sorry to confuse the confuse the listeners, because maybe I was off. I'm thinking pistols were
no,
somehow feminine, but now as you say that, it sounds silly. I mean, they obviously are penises, flower penises.
yeah, exactly. But then, you have, like, then a lot of times those will create pollen, but then the other pistils, or whatever you call them, the feminine part, will have something that's to catch the pollen.
Right.
So, and some of them are self-pollinating. A lot of flowers are self-pollinating too. So they'll have both within them their own body.
Oh, okay.
Um, but tendrils themselves are used to kind of, like, you'll see it on certain plants that are crawling up, like viney plants. They'll grow a tendril slowly until it touches something, and then it slowly curls and pulls it closer, and then that's how it grows, is through the tendrils. So this tendril could represent, an extension of consciousness to connect to the next level of ascension or whatever. I mean, the Egyptians were heavily
Yeah,
into ascension. They're heavily into ascension.
I think that's a great
Um,
interpretation.
Sweet. Okay, so we're off of crowns, and we're on to the next subject, friends. We have from scepters and swords and the globus cruciger to phones, guns, and our toxicified auras. And so in this, we're going to go into kind of the same thing, but you have to have all these different things to strengthen your aura. And you call it the Holy Trinity a lot of times, right? The Father, the Ghost, the Holy Spirit, whatever. It's different and everything. But to me, in this opinion, we're going to call the Holy Trinity being a scepter, a globus cruciger, and a crown. That's the Holy Trinity of energy for this antiquated transhumanism. And you'll see it time and time and again in a lot of these photos. They're wearing a majestic crown, they're holding a scepter in the left hand, and they're holding a globus cruciger in the right hand. Or that might be vice versa. Don't correct me, anybody. I don't, I don't really care. It's pretty easy to look up. But those are the three that they're holding, and what that would do, and what a lot of crystal energy does too, is it actually can strengthen your aura, can extend it, can allow you to have different, like, psychic abilities. And that's what a lot of these royals and elitists were into. They want to have as much psychic ability and connection to the cosmos and the collective consciousness as possible, because that the more of these conductive materials you have, obviously it symbolizes riches and royalism, but it also symbolizes the connection closer to the gods and the god realm and the collective consciousness, and to the plasma and to the universe and meditation, and the depth and depth and depth of the creative energy, right? To just be as tantric and as possible. And so you have to have tools to do that. And so why I put also that, from scepters and swords and the globus cruciger to phones and guns in our toxified auras, is because it's the opposite. Just like I did, on the other one was from crowns to whatever. It's the opposite. Now we have phones, which are basically sucking in our energy, guns, which kill people's energy and are toxic just to be around oftentimes, and then our toxified auras, all of the heavy metals that were being protrude upon, um, when I'm big into bathing too, and I want to do a big ancient bathing series, because a lot of these ancient cultures, they also were huge on soaking, right? And a huge part of alchemy and understanding electricity is you can't get an electric charge through water until you add salt to it, and then it becomes a solution in which electricity can travel through. And so when you put negatively charged heavy metal softeners in the water to, make it not smell like sulfur, which is actually great for your skin. And granted, I understand the reasons for cleaning up water as they're running through the city water. They're reusing it, recycling it from people's sewage water and gray water, and they get all the water from wherever and they put it in a big thing. They add all the softeners, they do whatever. You talk to anybody at your local water plant, they're not allowed to tell you what they put in it because they sign NDAs often, depending on the county or wherever you are. But it's also hard to get in hold of those people because they don't hire a lot of people to work at the water treatment plant, right? It's tough. But when you add, you can counterbalance that. This is a tip for everybody, by the way. If you live in a heavy fluoridated water area, a way to counterbalance the negative toxins within the city water is to actually add Epsom salt and magnesium. And it'll help kind of just balance out. I'm not going to say it's going to make it healthy because it will never be truly healthy, because it's just not going to be that way. Our skin is a beautiful organ that soaks up so much more than we conceptualize. We're like plants. We have sensitive skin, just like the cell walls of a plant. We're not like trees. We're durable as fuck. I mean, don't get me wrong, but we're also soft, right? And so do salt baths, everybody. The ancients were doing it. They would build these giant baths. There was a place called Magnesia in Greece. Magnesia is where the term magnesium comes from. Epsom is in England. It's an old bathing town in England, and they had limestone baths, and they were heavily, heavily attracted to the bathing, right? It was a whole culture, and it's something else that strengthens our spirit and our consciousness. So, in ancient Egypt, the scepter symbolized power, independence, and sovereignty. And amongst the Etruscans, scepters are great magnificence were used by kings and of upper orders and priesthoods of many Many of these scepters and interpretations exist at the Vatican, the Louvre, the British Museum, and they're all made of gold. And they're all made of gold, most elaborately and minutely ornamented. And they're all being held at the Louvre, the Vatican, and the British Museum. So do with that information what you will. Here's a beautiful scepter on a terrible image. I'm sorry, everybody, but you can just look at that, hold that, and feel the energy. Here's the top of a scepter, pure diamond plated scepter from Russia. Here we have, like I said, the Holy Trinity. This is from Russia too. This is a scepter, the globe and cross, and a crown, just glittered in diamonds. Here we go, more scepters, crowns, and the globe and cross. A staff is probably the oldest symbol of power. Its origins trace back to the shepherds and the holy men's staffs, which would symbolize a shepherd's power over his herd and a priest's power over his parish, respectively so. The staff was also used by high-ranking priests in many different religions. The staff in a monarch's hand would symbolize the trunk of the tree of life, connecting heaven and earth. And so what that means is the symbolization of being able to connect to the grounding energy of earth, right? To be able to manipulate and move magic, and magic, in my opinion, is the movement of energy and the condensement and movement of energy. And so you have to have a grounding cord for that. If you're wearing shoes or you're wearing some sort of insulator on your feet, and your feet are the grounding cords of the body cathode system, an energetic electrical system, then a staff with conductive materials would be your grounding cord, allowing you to be able to connect and to the ether energy by having a grounding cord. And so I'm going to show some. This is the Chinese Rui scepter. So they were doing this, obviously in the East. This isn't just a monarchy of the oligarchy. Indian Vajra and Bell showed this earlier in the Nepalese slide. A lot of the ancient Eastern cultures used their strong belief in resonance with their rituals, and the bell represents feminine energy, and the Vajra being masculine to symbolize the alchemical relations in unity. And they would use these in their rituals because something else about these cultures, we call it resonance architecture, not only because it resonates ether electric energy, but also because oftentimes they were built with massive pipe organs inside, and they were built with bell towers, and they would actually have acoustic resonance that you can't get in the nicest music studios to date, right? The reverb would literally reverberate off of your soul. You can feel the energy in cathedrals. Cathode rules. Here's a Yoruba.
Wow. And for folks just listening to this, please go to the Patreon or the Rockfin and check this out. We are streaming live for free on Rockfin, and once the stream is over, it goes behind the paywall. So please support on Rockfin and get a hold of all these really awesome visuals that Roman took a lot of time out of his life to put together for us to learn here today. I'm blown away. I'm sorry I'm not adding more to it, but you're laying out a lot, and it's fitting into a lot of what I've been researching in the past few days. So I'm excited for my turn, but keep going, brother.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. This is a really cool ceremonial sword from Sri Lanka. Okay, now we're off of the swords because honestly, I could put so many photos on there. I was rushing myself a little bit, so I was a little nervous, and like trying to find nice pictures is kind of hard. So I want to be able to tighten this up and do cleaner pictures, so we could do this again sometime. From cathodes to wired cubicles, resonance architecture. Okay, this is classic Russian architecture. And so what I was talking about earlier, okay, so these are the spires, right? And some of those Eastern crowns really look like this, like the Cambodian crowns, and a lot of the crowns, they represent and look a lot like how they build the top of these buildings. And the cross, I think, and I'm just going to lightly touch on this because I think we can go deeper in on this, but the cross was stolen during the Holy Roman Empire era, the Christian takeover, the monotheistic takeover, to basically give it less of an energetic alchemical meaning and more of a specific religious meaning, because it doesn't necessarily all of these represent Jesus dying on the cross? Or is there a deeper meaning to this energetic symbol?
Yeah, that is interesting to point out for those just listening. I mean, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and maybe 12 if we look on the other side. 12 almost visible crosses on this building. And to your point, is one enough? Isn't one enough? Why does there have to be one on each spire if it's purely symbolic? I mean, there is only one Christ. This doesn't seem to bring that to mind. If anything, it suggests multiple Christs and multiple crucifixions, right? And I don't think that matches anything that they're teaching in that building. So yeah, it's very strange, the number of crosses on some of these buildings.
And like, you look at what's underneath each cross, it has to be this orb. It has to be this specific shape underneath each one, which kind of ties in more to the resonance architecture understanding of it. So it's like they each have the cross, the spire, they have a little ball, they have another antenna underneath that, which then breaks down into a bigger one. And this is in Russia. Here's more Russian, right? God, it's so pretty. It's so beautiful. We don't build anything like this anymore. So that says 1903 on it.
Well, you know, and to that point, you hear that a lot, and I think there's multiple factors there. I mean, there's the whole communistic, corporate, fascist type of architecture that people say, like, oh, this is brutalist architecture. It's like, you know, intended to make you feel obsolete and bleak, and yeah, to your point, it seemed like architecture had so much more potency in these days when these buildings were built.
And purpose, potency and purpose. It's baffling to me because I was listening to, I think it was on Crow 777, but just talking about how we went from building, you know, our architectural style went from kind of building, you know, beautiful masonry, even from the time of masonry, which granted is, you know, expensive, and a lot less like able to tap into a market because trees, you know, are sustainable. Like I also don't get it. And plus I love wood, so I don't mind living in a wood structure. But you know, because we're just grateful to have anything at this point, right? So this slide is it kind of shows the energetic breakdown of how these buildings may have worked, with the resonator, an antenna, and another resonator. And apparently red mercury in this container as a frequency amplifier, which would be really interesting. I have zero proof on that. This is something I found. Okay, so here we are with another magnificent cathedral. And the common theme you will always see in these cathedrals is two big spires and 3 entranceways. And just for scale, right, you see this guy is probably like a 5'11" dude, right, average, and these 1, 2, 3, 4, so 20-foot tall buildings or doors.
Wow.
Just a beautiful, but a common theme you will see when you guys start looking this up is 2 spires, 3 doors. Massive. And you know, all of the orbs that we were seeing before with that shape, they could be all in here. The inside of this, which we'll never really be able to be allowed in there unless we go in there ourselves and look what's inside of this roof, could be all coil. It could be all just copper gold coil all the way down. Orbs, crosses. See, these hold no significance of electricity energy over here, but this does. So is this the energy collector and then it distributes to these other buildings? What, they have lamppost here? I don't see any wires on that lamppost. Right? It could also be, you know, candle lit. Right? You have obviously an energy collector here, potentially here. This looks like a bell tower with also a cross on top and a spire. And these, which may just be used for collecting and redistributing through the walls. Boom. See, that's a nice photo. They're hard to find when they're crisp, clean photos. Okay, sorry guys. So this is it on those. There's so many fucking cathedrals, hospitals, prisons, asylums, museums, mansions, castles that are all like this, and there's millions of them. I'm not gonna say that there's hundreds of thousands for sure. And I think, you know, we talk a lot, and now we're going to tap a little bit into mud flood real quick. I think that specifically the generator during a cataclysmic time, whether or not it's war, whether or not it was something cataclysmic via nature, a lot of buildings have been destroyed over time, but there's also been some that have been kept up for longer than we could really fathom. And I think specifically generators and buildings of extreme purpose were kept around until they basically understood the energy or until the harnessing and diagnostics were finished. Finished. And I don't know, what like I said this earlier, what if the mud flood was a dawning of a new discovery in science? Say the understanding of physics and computing being born, or even better, the access to the multiverse, and in tune with astrological calendar predictions and understandings. The mud flood kind of fits. It fits to make history seem muddy and less involved with being evolved. And the poorer and dirtier they make our civilization seem, the easier it is to control the current narrative.
I agree.
And so I want to talk to you guys real quick about something else. This will kind of help tie it all in. And I had to look up what this was because I found this article and it is so ridiculously covered in science slop. The words they just have really, really, really big words in there. So I tried to get layman's terms as much as possible and find sites and articles that I could break down what LSPR is: local surface plasmon resonance. And so for this, you might know what this is. This is an old cup. Okay, this is the cup without light in it, and this is the cup with light in it. And now I need to go to the site real quick. That's called the Lycurges Cup.
Wow.
And
Wait,
this
so
is going to tie,
hold on. Hit us with
Yes.
that huge word again at the beginning of that slide. What did you just call it?
LSPR.
And how does that connect to what you're showing me right now? Because you have a cup and it's lit up in one side, and then on the other side,
Yep.
I don't know, off, or maybe there's not a candle burning inside of it. But
Let me tell you, because this is deep science, that this right here explains ancient technology with nano metals and nanoparticles and how we used, and just to kind of deepen, give you guys a modern science breakdown of what was happening on the science level back in the day with resonance architecture and these civilizations. So we're going to give an introduction to nanomedicine and the LSPR paradigm. So step into a medieval cathedral and admire the deep ruby reds found in the stained glass window. And you could be witnessing an early application of gold nanoparticles. The spectacularly dichroic Lycurges Cup is a still earlier example, probably dating back to the 4th century of Rome. And the artisans responsible for these works were not aware, supposedly, in the mainstream narrative, not aware that they were using gold nanoparticles to produce ruby glass, but this is exactly what they were doing in adding a small amount of chemically treated gold to the glass. The striking difference in color between bulk gold and gold nanoparticles is testimony to the dramatic change in material properties. The color change is due to systematic shift to lower energy of the plasmon resonance of gold nanoparticles. As the particle size decreases, the property has resulted in gold nanoparticles being used as visible and near infrared diagnostics in the rapidly emerging field of nanomedicine. And another property leading to the adoption of gold nanoparticles in medicine life science applications is the biocompatibility and the related historical use in treating rheumatoid arthritis. Chemically speaking, gold nanoparticles are very versatile with a range of functionalizing strategies available. And these strategies are important since they involve the addition of biologically active groups to confer specific biological functions to the nanoparticles. Table 3.1 shows the results of searches using the Google Scholar illustrates the importance of gold nanoparticles to medicine. So that's the Lycurges Cup. There's another SERPed over here. You see they got that glass, right? They go into the nanoparticles and the plasmon resonance used in making all of the stained glass. So nanoscience and nanotechnology, nano in history. An extraordinary work with glass made by the Romans in the 5th century AD demonstrates one of the greatest examples of nanotechnology in the ancient world. The Lycurgus Cup, which is part of a collection at the British Museum, shows King Lycurgus being dragged into the underworld by ambrosia. Surprisingly, when lit, outside the cup looks green, but when lit inside from the cup looks reddish and king Lycurgus looks purple. That had to have been done on purpose. It's so specific to where the purple shines. The explanation for this phenomenon was obtained only in 1990 after scientists analyzed the cup atomic force microscope. It was found that the dichroism, 2 colors, is observed due to the presence of nanoparticles silver, gold, and copper, up to 100 nanomillimeters in size, dispersed in a glass matrix. The red color observed is a result of absorption of light by the gold. The purple color results due to the absorption by the larger particles, while the green color is attributed to the light scattering by colloidal dispersions of silver particles. The colloidal just means metal kind of like leached off into a liquid or another substance. It doesn't have to be liquid, but it most commonly is. The Lycurges Cup is recognized as one of the oldest synthetic nanocomposites. Besides the Romans, medieval artisans also explored the effect on addition of metal particles and glass to create stained glass windows. The shows of how gold and silver nanoparticles, different sizes, were applied to stained glass windows. Okay, boom. Okay, and we're going to go, and stained glass was also produced in Chinese ancient culture, and porcelain was also fabricated in gold nanoparticles with sizes the range of 20 to 60 nanomolecules. The use of gold had been extended even to the areas of medieval medicine, and work in this area was published by Hans Harker in 1718. Alchemists had knowledge of colloidal dispersions and potential applications. However, they did not have a quote-unquote science-based explanations for the observed phenomena and did not follow rigorous experimental methods. So we're gonna get back to the slide because then I just have the slide. Oh, it's right here. And then, okay, bar thing, go away. How does this move? Get out of here. Here we are. Wait.
That's really strange looking. And yeah, I've heard about this. We were talking about something similar in the first episode of the Elemental Philosophorum, but yeah, it's interesting to see so many examples of what seems like high technology in an ancient setting. It really makes you wonder, this myth of progress that we're in the most, technologically advanced point in human history right now. I don't know. I think that more and more we find things like this that give us evidence to say otherwise. And yeah, this stained glass, is really spectacular. But back on track, brother. Let's keep moving along here.
Look at this place, dude.
Yeah. Wow.
So if what they're saying about LSPR and the refractory of light hitting it, and basically this would be a major resonance zone. This is another piece of resonance architecture, and that's why I brought LSPR into it in that article, is because these weren't just resonating, ether energy. They were resonating life force energy through using these specific beautiful conductive metals in the glass and in everything. And so everything's resonating with energy. Okay, this is strange. I put this in here. I don't know. Help me with this one because we need to keep going all the way up to 10, right? 1, state of consciousness. 2, alchemical energy, positive and negative. 3, cosmic connections, the sun, moon, and earth. States of matter, solid, liquid, gas, plasma. 5 elements, air, water, fire, ether. 7 chakras. So we can do 7 chakras when it comes to that. This is terrible, but it's so beautiful. And obviously the number 7, I think every number has its importance. But look at this. This is all hermetic. 7 hermetic principles. That's what it is. Maybe. Look at this hallway.
Wow.
Look at that. Come on.
Wow.
Blasting
We're looking
off with
at
some DMT in here.
Yeah, we're looking at stained glass with like multicolor levels that you'd expect from like some EDM festival. These churches are And this could be, edited this way with a computer's help, but I think the point is made that the stained glass is more than just decoration.
It's so much more than decoration. That's what they want to tell us with the crowns, the scepters, the ceremonial swords, the bells, the life has some meaning. Life has so much meaning. It's so important. So things I want to dig deeper into that I didn't get into in this is another form of resonance architecture. Look at the floor plans of these cathedrals. They're in the shape of a cross.
Right.
I mean,
now, do you think
to
that's
talk yet again about? Yeah, go ahead.
Do you think that has to do with like the microcosm, macrocosm, like they're, because I mean, yes, it's a cross, but it also could be interpreted as like a human body with the sort of rounded edge being the head, the two arms, and then you have the feet
Yep.
at the bottom. And you enter the building through the feet, and the whole ceremony takes place at the head of the building, and then there's the two wings where the priests go,
Yeah, exactly. See, that's the level of depth these people are thinking in when they construct these things. That level of depth. Come on, it's hard enough for us to build a lean-to out in the woods, right? Like with no training, just be like, oh shit, I have some plywood in this. I need to survive, right? To go to this level. Oh man, it's beautiful. And yeah, like I think you're right. Like, and I don't mean necessarily cross, like, Christian cross. That was the whole thing. I think that's a facade. I think that whole mythos is a facade. I think it's an energetic symbol that we have been suppressed on knowing.
wow.
And so something else too. Oh, so these are pipe organs. We're getting into the pipe organs, yo. Oh, something else too, really quick. So, on Goodness Over Darkness podcast with Emmanuel, he talks about the cross being a cube, and that blew my mind the first time I heard about it. Right, it could be folded up into a cube. But then I thought about, well, if you take out the bottom segment of the cross, okay, let me go back here. If you were to take out this quadrant down here, right, and you had equal segments, kind of think of like a plus sign, or equal all the way around, okay, you would have a cross symbol. But if you were to take the centrifuge center point and pull it up, you would not have a cube, but you'd have a pyramid.
Right.
So think about each part of the cross. Instead of folding up perfectly into a cube, think about the centrifuge energy point in the middle that extends, like the toroid, as they call it. Okay. And that the meat, and it pulls up there. So the stronger the energy, the bigger the toroid feel. So that's what pulls it up and gives it the conical pyramid shape.
Right.
Bell towers and pipe organs. Okay. These are fucking fascinating. They're found all over the world. This is in China. Okay, this is obviously stock photo from somewhere. Beautiful, potentially computer image. Didn't realize that. Look at these pipe organs, dude. Look at that.
Wow. Now those look modern, though. I mean, come on, where are these from? That looks like some Star Trek shit. Wow, okay, that looks old. I don't mean, just based on no knowledge
Sydney,
whatsoever, just visual, it's impressive.
Well, you know why they call them organs?
Why is that?
Because
Tell us.
they would resonate at the solfeggio scale. So let me tell you guys something about. I'm a musician, and frequency is very important, right? Because when you tune your instrument, you're tuning to a certain frequency. And unanimously, just like we have come to one Gregorian calendar cycle, one alphabet, one numerical system, guess what? We have a standard tuning system. What is the frequency of that? 440 hertz. was changed to 440 hertz by the Rockefeller Foundation back in the 50s, or was it the 40s? Sorry. From 432, which is a known healing binaural resonance, solfeggio resonance, it was changed. And the second that you change a resonance and a frequency, if we're frequency beings and energy is not created nor destroyed, it's just manipulated and contorted, then that thus is starting the weakness to make us weaker as a species. One of the many things that's toxicify our auras and our spirit, right? When I say we're like spirit and stuff and God, I'm not a Christian, everybody, just so you know, I know that off puts a lot of people. But yeah, just to kind of give you like a little history and background, it was literally changed. The standard tuning was changed from 432 to 440. And so how that resonates with these organs are meant to heal. That's why these places were resonant buildings. It would resonate the acoustics of these pipe organs so well that people would feel the specific resonant of healing, whatever it may be. And so these were places of worship, right? Places of beyond spiritual connection that we can fathom this day in current age. And I will say that we can't fathom it because we are not connected spiritually like they used to be back in the day. And that's why we are the way we are. And that's why they are the way they were. And I'm not saying it's our fault, but it's the fault of the people that we so-called leaders. And I think it went from a place of feudalism to federalism. And that, you know, it's the same thing, right? There's always been an occultism and esoteric stuff. This is the last slide, everybody. Pipe organs and bells I want to get more into. And that's it. So that's what we got.
Beautiful. I love it. Really cool. All right, brother. Well, I got a lot to respond. I mean, I like the way you laid out resonance architecture and ended with like the musical side of things and how the architecture and even the stained glass might be playing into this overall energy field that they're creating. You know, they're tuning all of these things. You know, the building itself is an instrument. And, you know, taking it back to when you talked about the globe, the scepter, and the crown, that reminded me of something I just read. I finished this book this weekend, Latitude 33, Key to the Kingdom, Walter Bosley. And
nice.
He talks about a lot of things I want to get into when it comes to my side of the presentation, but we'll respond first here. You brought up the scepter, the globe, and the crown, right? And I thought that was fascinating, the crown part, because it would make so much sense. And please spark that up. I don't know what you're waiting for, but I'm just waiting
to get done with the presentation. So I
well, thank you. Very, very, very professional. So, anyways, the crown. You know, I didn't think about that. The crown being like this, you know, object that you put on your head, and now this energy field that's just, you know, alive inside of this building. You're way more in tuned with it and possibly even conducting it. So here's what I thought of when you read that. So this is coming from Walter Bosley's book, folks, and it's actually coming from even further. He's referencing this book that I also have, a very cool book called Free Energy Pioneer. So let's see. In 1881, Keely demonstrated a device that involved water and sound and rotation to produce energy. Among his other experiments was one in which a volunteer would stand in a circle while other participants drew bows across tuning forks, and a sphere across the room would begin to rotate. When the volunteer stepped out of the circle, the sphere stopped, then resumed when the volunteer stepped back inside the circle. Whatever Keely was demonstrating with this, it appears to have something to do with energy traveling a distance and interacting with another object. More interestingly, the effect on that other object is dependent upon the human volunteer being in a particular spot and the movement of the round object beginning to rotate or spin. So, I mean, wow, this is implicated with, you know, what you said, if you take that into account, I mean, they're creating this energy field in these buildings that are, as you showed in those last slides, sort of macrocosmically representative of the human body itself. They're taking all of this energy and conducting it through the crown, the globe, and the scepter. I mean, it's really fascinating, man. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, like it kind of, to me, you know, makes a lot of sense because, you know, we think about Atlantean culture and Stonehenge and things like that. The circles, stone circles, the shape is very important. So if we were to take our energetic selves with our energetic tools, stand in a circle, and specifically do, you know, what I guess you would consider a either seance or spell or practice or what have
Ceremony.
you. Ceremony. That's the one word I could have used to do that. That's funny. But yeah, no, I 100%. And you know, it's just another part of the indoctrination that we've been misled that magic is magic. And it's nothing more than that. Magic isn't real because magic's magic, and magic isn't real on a mainstream. And so, but then you look at how our ancients lived, and you want to tell me that, and magic, in my opinion, and just on the layman's term, is movement of energy. And what were they doing in that text? Moving energy. Like we can do that, and we do that. All we need to
Exactly.
do it right.
Exactly. So, I mean, this is so much in line with what I thought I would bring to the table. So on the phone, and before I get to that, what you just talked about the stones being placed in certain areas, that is key to this whole thing. And I know people, you know, think of ley lines. I don't know if I'm going to go with that term ley lines. I think the better specific term is like a geomagnetic or geomantic corridor, as Peter Shampoo calls it in his book, the Gaia Matrix. And that was a great interview. If folks haven't listened to that yet, please go back and listen to the Peter Shampoo interview. It was a fantastic conversation.
What number?
108, actually. And then, yeah, so he
Nice.
talks about how this grid is on the planet, and it's not just like the longitude and latitude lines that we see on the map. It's some of them are circular, and in most cases there are either landscape features like mountains or valleys or rivers, or there are man-made structures and even megalithic structures that sort of create the outer edges of the circle. So the circle goes through these points. So you can plot this circle with these points potentially. That to me is absolutely fascinating. So I think that needs to be considered, is that these buildings are being placed in spots that already have very high energy. Like when you're talking about the baths, that's a great point. You know, Peter also mentioned that limestone is a big indicator of an ancient civilization, in the sense that like more often than not, there'll be these ancient cities built near limestone. And again, indicator of some sort of energy.
And of limestone.
Right. That too. So, but the bath
Great
part
building material.
is really fascinating. People should look up the tepidariums, I think is what they called them in Rome. They had these like underground baths that they would go into and carve them out. And the ley lines themselves, or again, geomantic corridors, Walter in his book, he references this guy named Shesh Hari, who talks about how the stress of the planet kind of turning in on itself from the North Pole to the South Pole, it kind of like the way, like if you stabbed a basketball on both ends and then like pulled the skin inside out but maintained the shape of the globe, you know, eventually that layer that was the outside layer would go all the way and become the inside layer of the basketball, and then you can flip it around again, right? So this process is happening, according to some theorists, to the earth
Through through a toroid field, right?
Right.
If the Earth was toroidal.
Exactly. Or
Beautiful.
icosahedral. And there are certain points where concentrations of mass accumulate. These are called mass cons. And that's where certain points of the Earth where this energy has created like a line over time. You know, it's hard to explain because I haven't fully visualized it myself, but what it seems to be, if you're subscribing to this model of the Earth, seems like the Earth is creating these lines, and there's like a stress of energy, and so my point being, it's not necessarily like a straight line always, but in this case that Walter gets into with the 33rd parallel connecting to Disneyland, he points out that the carousel in original Disney World in Anaheim, California, was like a rotational spinning device that channeled that energy underneath where these three ley lines intersect, and that created,
and then it spreaded it out.
Basically created an aura. And here, let me share my screen and show you guys this picture of Disney World, because when you see it from the air, let me find the right one. When you see it from the air, hold on a second, folks, you can start to understand how this bubble might be created. So what we have here is, and can you see my mouse moving around?
Yes.
So
yes,
we have
beautiful.
the Ferris wheel, or I'm
so
sorry,
this is Disneyland here. This is Disneyland.
This is, I think is it Disney World or Land? I always get them confused, but the
Disney
one in
World's
California.
in Florida. Disneyland is in
So this is Disneyland, and this spot in the center, or this spot over here, I'm not quite sure which one it is, but either way, there's a carousel that is aligned with this ley line, and as the energy accumulates underneath it, when the carousel's moving, it rotates that energy and spreads it out. And this barrier that you see here, it's kind of like a raised area of land, and Walter uses the proper term for it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but this land mass here helps accumulate that energy, push it upwards, and creating this sort of aura around the park.
Very sus.
Yeah.
Very sus.
And what's
look
interesting,
at the shape too. It's a triangle shape.
it is
Which could
kind of
be
triangular.
It's almost like a force field up and around, like almost like a pyramid force field could be fucking made out of that centrifuge part.
Yeah, it is interesting. It's not quite, I mean, I almost think of it more of as a pentagonal type of shape, but you could also maybe see it as a six-sided shape. If you took the curves away, there would be sort of six sides to this shape. But yeah, it's not like a perfect oval. It's sort of a polygon, and it has a sort of triangular feature to it. But I don't know. It's interesting to consider, you know, with what you said about the crown, the scepter, and these elements being made of the right material to conduct energy, electricity, right? And even magnetism, electromagnetism possibly is involved with this. You know, I'm not a physicist, folks, but from what I understand with the electric universe, you know, I'm kind of extrapolating from there. So I could be wrong. More reason to look into it yourself, like we're doing here today. And this Disneyland, I think it's fascinating because it has the reputation for being the happiest place on earth. And around 1982, they moved the carousel and replace it with the sword in the stone. I don't know if it's just like a statue, you know, they just put it in the spot where the King Arthur's carousel used to be, right? So it's very interesting that now after 1982, you see, you know, a lot of changes in Disney. You see, like, you know, some weird stuff start to happen later on. Now there's a really evil reputation that Disney has with the whole, you know, Disney Kids Club thing.
I wanted to ask you about that. Like, do you, in Walter's book, because I'm going to be 100% honest with you, Mark, this is something I'm incredibly interested in. The ley line part and energetic part of it, obviously, but like kind of just, I can't find any occultic information on Walt, but I know that motherfucker. People say he was a 32nd degree, uh, but like I think he was full on. I mean, his money and power, full on 33rd.
Well,
What do you got? Any info?
I do. I don't want to give away the book. I think really this book's awesome, and he makes it clear in the beginning of the book, like, hey, I am actually a fan of Disneyland. I enjoyed going there as a kid, so my intention is to not like make Disney, to give them a bad reputation or anything like that. He then goes on to be pretty transparent with what he found, and you can trust this guy or not. I don't know. I mean, it's up to you. Trust the author, trust Walt, whoever you want to trust. But to me, the whole 33-degree club thing, I think that comes from the 33rd parallel. I think it possibly comes from this association with some sort of strange effect. Because you got to keep in mind, like Walt Disney himself, there is no record of him ever being a Freemason. He was part of like a group called the Demolay Society, which was like a boys' club, but it wasn't officially Freemasonic, and he never, pursued it. And like, for all intents and purposes, like just because you're a Freemason doesn't make you a bad person anyways, So I'm not really in that persuasion of people who's like, Freemason, red flag, there's people who I've had on the show.
I don't condone to that necessarily either.
Right. I've had people on the show. I mean, Darren Grimes, the Grimerica show, he joined the Freemason chapter in his area and then was like, you guys suck, and left. Those aren't his words, those are my words. But yeah, like to me, when I hear that he was able to join and then leave and they weren't like coming after him, it's like, yeah, I honestly, I think it's case by case. So with Walt, no, there is no record of him being involved with that. But his team, right, this guy, C.V. Wood, Cornelius.
Oh, that's right. The people he was associated with were all Freemasons, but he wasn't.
Well, okay, so no, I'm not going to even go with that either.
Classic story.
No, because that's not where this is going. But I can see why you would think that. But no, that's not where this is going. So Cornelius Vanderbilt Wood maybe was a Freemason. I don't know. He was the head of a sort of like a psychic research type group whose name is escaping me. Again, more reason for people to pick up the copy of this book. But he was a member of the Stanford Research Institute, which is definitely sketchy organization for some people, and they invented satellite GPS and a bunch of other things that are used to help record and understand like the earth, right? So it would make sense that this guy CV Wood would know about the ley lines, right? They were studying that kind of thing at that time. And yeah, so he kind of
this is intentional, absolutely.
He puts it that possibly like it was more CV Wood putting this together, and what happened is CV ended up kind of like, I guess, getting on Walt Disney's bad side, because Walt didn't like that CV Wood was going around and taking credit for being the main engineer of Disney World, right, or Disneyland. He didn't like that, this guy was like, I built Disneyland. It was all me, because Walt, was very much totalitarian ideologically with the way he ran his business, and that's a part of the book that he does get into it a little bit. Is like, he wasn't a good guy. But again, not really the point of this conversation, not really the point of my research.
About Walt's, oh, true. Okay. Do you see this though, my friend? Do you see the way that the angle of the picture we're looking at? I see Mickey Mouse.
Right. That could be it too.
You got the ears. You got the a full, and I even see like the little cheeks down here. Like I think Mickey's in that, and that's like Mickey's third eye almost, where that would be, because you see that little square triangle down there. It's like the nose. And then it goes up here, and those are the ears. And then obviously there would be, it's not the cutout shape of it because it connects all the way, but you could fit Mickey in there. And then you think about the shape of Mickey is like 3 circles together, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the symbol of three interlocking circles, like the Vesica Pisces with a third circle above it. That definitely comes to mind when you said that. But
Yeah.
I definitely didn't see any of that in the book. He doesn't really talk about the Mickey Mouse at all, really. But anyway, so the sorry, the
Super interesting topic, dude. I would love to go deep into
no,
this.
I
on a
mean, dude,
full
you
other
gotta
situation.
definitely gotta get the book. I mean, I'll send it to you if you're not gonna buy it yourself, because I read it already. I like it, but you definitely gotta buy it yourself. Maybe we could get Walter on the show. I know he's still around, and he has a YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure. But anyway, so this carousel not only possibly generated this energy, but it was also encoded with all of these symbols that we are talking about when we look at these buildings, and it might not be as obvious when you look at like a building in a city as it is in like a park where things are designed to look a certain way anyways, right? But look at the top of the carousel there. You see this? Does that remind you of
Looks a
anything that you were showing us earlier?
Absolutely.
Right. So this definitely kind of reminds me of those spires that we see on the buildings. So that's curious. But beyond that, the whole King Arthur symbolism is very alchemical. You have the Philosopher's Stone, the sword, the wand, or the staff, like you mentioned, one of the oldest symbols. And I think the last one is the Grail, the cup, right? I'm pretty sure. Or it's a cauldron. It's a cauldron, sorry. So, cauldron, cup, sort of probably the same, going back to the same thing. So, either way, you have this idea that our subconscious world is informed by the symbols we see in our daily life. So when you look up at maybe a court building and you see these gods carved into the top edifice above the doorways, above these pillars that, come down and you walk through the pillars to get into the building. I mean, that's not just style, right? There is quite literally a conscious effect going on there. And I think it's important to point out that that might not be the same thing as what we're discussing here with the actual, like, tangible, maybe tangible is not the right word, but perceivable energy shift that some buildings can conduct. Whereas, yes, the symbolism here is definitely exciting to the subconscious. When the carousel is spinning in motion, it becomes more of a device than, let's say, if this thing wasn't in motion, or even more, for the sake of our conversation, if this carousel wasn't placed where it is on this three-way intersection of ley lines, right? So that all of those factors create this sort of energy bubble. And I think, connecting it all back to what you were talking about with the crown, I mean, King Arthur, here's a very much crown symbolism here. And this guy, who was C.V. Wood, the guy who designed all of this, he was a part of a foundation that was very much connected to Carl Jung and Carl Jung's work, right? And all of these, I think the group still exists.
Ooh.
And they, they definitely
Carl Jung and the Go-Go Getters.
right, and everything I just mentioned about like the unconscious, and the symbolism, that's something that I think I mentioned before we talked here today, that I was going to bring in this book called Architecture, Mysticism, and Myth by William Letheby, and that's what he discusses, is how all of this architecture has the same symbology in it, not because they're copying one another or merely because they're not like creative enough, but because they're sort of embodying these archetypes that have a very, very potent effect on our consciousness when we're in their presence. So I have it's called the Mind Science Foundation. So that's what C.V. Wood was a chairman of. And they were pioneering philosophy of a great psychologist who explored the effects of mythology, alchemy, astrology, and literature on human consciousness. Right. So, and this guy was a designer by trade, and there were other designers who were a part of this group. So it's obvious that people who are not just psychologists and philosophers and this sort of thing, they're actual craftsmen or people who are in charge of big projects, building architecture, interested in this type of work. And I think it's for good reason. There's a certain,
look at the star-shaped hedges.
Yeah, that too. That's
Kind of
interesting.
pointing out there. Huh.
But I don't know.
Real quick before we skip off of the carousel, I wanted to say I kind of had a little bit of a download during that. Like I think back to some movies, and I use a lot of movies. You can use movies. Or your friend. Hopefully someday I'll be able to talk to this gent. But Michael Wan does a lot of like cool movie breakdowns and stuff,
Right.
talking about symbolism and all of that goodness. And there's been a few movies that kind of symbolize like a carousel in a house, or like a gear shifting, like turning clockwise, like that energy, right? The concept of just something turning. So if there's energy getting extrapolated from it, right, and that could be symbolic of like, hey, we're at a ley line electromagnetic hotspot. We have this spire here, this antennae, and then you spin it and you add motion to it through electricity that you're harnessing there. If these houses and these old cathedrals in the basement or somewhere, and the really advanced ones had some sort of carousel, something, or a crank, or a gear, or something centrifugal, then thus would spin the energy out from that building to the other places in the town. So if this could be like an interpretation of how an old style energy, resonant energy culture would use it, like kind of like Disneyland, how they're representing that energy being spread around town.
Right.
Specifically, the movie 13 Ghosts is that major one I'm talking about. You ever seen that movie?
No, tell me about it.
Oh, it came out. It's like it has the guy from Scream and Scooby-Doo, Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, Matthew Lillard, and that was like 2000. I don't know, super cheesy, but 2007 or something like that. And 13 Ghost. Basically, there's a lot of symbolism in there, because it's like there was only supposed to be 12 ghosts, but then there's the 13th ghost in this house that's made of glass, and in the glass, like all these doors shift. It's kind of like a maze that happens. And in a lot of horror movies, they'll tie in ancient symbolism into horror movies, like psychological thrillers, right? Because they're psychological and thrilling and psychologically thrilling. And so, but then there's a 13th ghost, just like, a fucus, right? The 13th, the 13th supposed tribes of Israel, the 13th astrological symbol, the 13th disciple, or whatever. And then at the end of the movie, they break through the maze, and in the center of this house is like this, like kind of carousel gear building, gear spinning and powering this energy. And it's just that kind of carousel harnessing energy. And I think there is something to it. I think there's if we look hard enough, we will find that in more places.
Yeah, I think so. And the other thing that came to mind when I was looking into this stuff was the bells, and how bells are mentioned when you look at like possible propulsion devices, a bell spinning and rotating, causing some sort of vibratory force. That's another thing that Walter gets into in later books that he writes. But the bell concept, I mean, you see the bell shape in a lot of those relics that you pointed out in the beginning. You see it in architecture. You can even maybe interpret some of those, and I always fail on the proper term for this. I don't think it's spire. I think whatever we're looking at has a more proper name, the like bulb looking thing, like the upside down light bulb looking thing, but it very much is reminiscent of a bell in some ways, right? And or at least the shape. and possibly
Yes,
that
yeah.
has something to do with the
There's a-
resonance of the shape itself.
I've heard that before, and there is. We're not tapping into it, but we need to do deeper research on it because it's fascinating. The bell, there's a thing called like bell energy. There is a bell energy, and it goes, and there's a reason Bell Labs is named Bell Labs, too. And also with the bell towers, most of the bell towers in all of these buildings have all been taken out. And there's a symbolism within the crack of the Liberty Bell as well, right? If America was surely potentially founded on symbolic and strange ways, then the story of the crack of the Liberty Bell and there being these architecture here, like I think removing bells had something to do with the potential mud flood situation as well. And I don't know. I'm just speculating, but I really do think that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely all a lot easier to understand when you have your head wrapped around this electric universe sort of model, right? And I still don't. I'm still new to all this stuff, but in a large way, I think that's what we're looking at here. We're looking at the architecture tapping into maybe qualities that are no longer present. I mean, I don't know about you, but it doesn't feel like these buildings have the same potency that they used to. Maybe a cataclysmic event changed the nature of our atmosphere, and now a lot of these buildings that were built, pre 1700s, like you put it, maybe they were tuning into something that's no longer able to be tuned into. That's why a lot of them got just demolished and scrapped.
That's the research that we are like, we're in the thick of it. Everybody, we're all in the thick of it right now because we've got everything around that part, but we all know there was something, but now we're just in the thick of like digging and trying to figure out what it is because it's so, I mean, to me in my life right now, that's the most fascinating thing to think about what this supposed like mud flood was or is, this event, even if it's a metaphorical flood, the concept of some sort of switch in time. And I think we're going to get to it in the next couple of years. Honestly, I think us doing this independent research that we're doing, I think we're really going to make some big discoveries. And so I'm really glad that you're doing what you do, and we got a tight community, man. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, tell us about your show, brother. I mean, we're kind of coming to the 2-hour mark here. I don't know if you got a date or something, you got somewhere to be, but tell us about your show.
I'm cruising. Yes, RFTA, Rising from the Ashes, just the same thing, different day, you know what I mean? But yeah, it's been great. Gonna do next year, we're having it all, each month will be topic based. So it'll help us get more specified guests, and then we can kind of go deeper down those routes. So that's gonna be fun. But yeah, man, I'm like I said, I'm just glad that we're all like this has helped my life a lot. It's helped my life, making more friends, like all like within the realm of internet. So it's kind of conflicting at times, but I am grateful for the internet also, as much as I love trees and nature and the earth way and reality way more. It's also I love it. It's a conundrum.
Yeah, I I have that dilemma every day, brother, because we are interacting with the technosphere here more than ever. And, for those listening, you could be listening to these podcasts out in the middle of the woods somewhere. You can be driving in your car in a beautiful area, or you could be in the middle of the city and this is your escape, escaping in your mind and you're imagining. And there's a number of things you can do with the magic of podcasting. So I'm open to changing up my schedule, I think, so that I have more time to do what I love, which is being outside and connecting and following the synchronicities. And maybe the solution to that is like doing something where like 1 month I interview a bunch of people, like 2 months worth of interviews, and then the next month I just explore and just see what happens synchronistically, and then that determines the next round that next month. So I think we're both evolving and growing. We're both new at this, and I think it's so cool to be growing, like you said, with the community that we have here. No, not just thanks to me, but thanks to everybody who decided to join this cooperative that I founded. So yeah, thanks, man. You're definitely a huge part of that. We always chat. And what are your thoughts on the presentation? I'm thinking we need to come back and iron some of this stuff out for a part 2, because we definitely brought a lot of things up, but still so many questions, not a lot of answers, and I think we're still just getting into the tip of the iceberg, as they say.
Yes, yeah, I would love that. To kind of come back with more clarity, better pictures, maybe a little music, maybe a little solfeggio. Binaural
The
tones
music
in
is going to
background,
be
just
in there,
vibe out.
brother. We could put music in there. Not for the live folks. There's only a handful of people. If you are listening to the show afterwards, we are live. We're on Rockfin for free. Stay up to date. I always put the link out on Twitter. I put it out on our Telegram. People are listening on Telegram. So there are ways to listen to the show live and watch the show, because Homie Romy had the really awesome slides that he brought to the presentation today. I was slacking, folks. I had like 4 or 5 pictures. This guy went out. He put a real proper presentation together. I love it, dude. Kudos to you. And yeah, man, I think this is definitely something we got to come back and do again for sure.
Oh, fuck yes. I'm so down. I actually really do enjoy it. And it's good for me to sit down and take that time to really kind of write things out. Dude, I'm a scatterbrain, like there's so much going on, and I would love this to be my full-time thing, but it's not. So I have to fit it in when I can. And also trying to, stay sane. But, I just also want to say, since we're out here doing it, if you are listening, Telegram is tight. Go join our Rising from the Ashes Telegram group chat, because we love all of our Telegrammers, and, it's fun just to kind of like, if you guys got any fucking articles or any sort of sweet information, and, just whatever, post a picture of your dog. It's all good. Just get off Instagram. Shit is trash. Telegram is.
I would be doing this on Instagram, but they don't let you connect on Instagram. I mean, you could do a live stream on Instagram, but that for whatever reason my Bluetooth, connects to Telegram, but not Instagram. I wish I could do this live on Instagram, but Instagram is, pretty trash. Like you said, they're ahead on a lot of features that I don't need, and behind on a lot of features that I would love to see. So either way, I'm not in the business of nitpicking. I'm happy wherever people want to come and find the show, as long as you find the show and it resonates with you. And speaking of resonance, we got into resonance architecture. Homie Romy brought a lot of stuff to the table. I brought a little less stuff to the table, but this is a new format. We were trying something new. If you are listening on the audio format of the show, I probably clipped a little bit of the longer segments where we were kind of pausing to look at the pictures. So you might be getting less of the experience. So go over to Patreon and show us some love and get the real experience, the whole video, or Rockfin if crypto is your thing. But either way, Homie Romy, I'm going to let you go. In this dark cave that you're in right now. And I got to get going myself. I just had Nick Hinton on the show. yesterday. I don't know if this episode is going to come out before or
tight.
after, but that was a great conversation. And I think you were with me for the Owen Hunt intro, right?
Yes, you called me on the way when I was in the vehicular.
Yes.
Driving somewhere.
Yes, right on. Yes, I remember now. So
Great.
Yeah,
It was a great day. Such a beautiful day.
I'm gonna see. I don't know. I want to see those episodes are coming out this week, so we'll see what people think. But I might be doing extended intros and outros, and I'll definitely be in touch, homie Romy, to have you back on for one of those. But I gotta run. My homie Ryan Dean is waiting for me right now. I gotta catch up with him. So I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you soon, brother. It's been a pleasure, and thank you, folks, for listening to the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy podcast and viewing it live, as I said, in all the places. And have a great moment wherever you are in the now. Peace.